It was 2:13 a.m. in the morning when every phone in America screamed at once. Mark's Webb had been asleep for 3 hours. He was a light sleeper, always had been. So when the emergency tone tore through his nightstand, he was sitting upright before his eyes were even open. His heart was already pounding. That sound does something to people. It's designed to. The government spent years engineering exactly the right pitch, exactly the right pulse pattern to make a sleeping human sit bolt upright in the dark. And it worked. He grabbed his phone. The screen was blinding white. At the top, in thick black letters, presidential alert. And then below it, something he had never seen in any drill, any test, any news story about emergency broadcast. Do not look outside. Marx read it twice, 3 times. He looked at the clock. The time was 2:13 a.m. He looked at the alert again. The message had no explanation, no cause, no instructions beyond staying inside and avoiding the windows. No agency listed except FEMA and something called IPAWS, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. The kind of name that sounds official enough that you stop questioning it. He checked Twitter. It was already exploding. Every post was the same. Did everyone get this? What does it mean? Is this a hack? My whole street just went dark. That last one stopped him. He looked up from his phone. His bedroom was on the 2nd floor. The window faced east, towards Marigold Street, towards the Henderson's house, towards the line of old oak trees that divided a subdivision from the one behind it. He had lived here for 9 years. He knew exactly what the view looked like at night. Quiet houses, porch lights, the occasional car. The street was completely dark. Marx didn't go to the window. He wanted to. The instinct was almost physical. This pull in his chest like a hand reaching through his ribs, trying to drag him towards the glass. But the alert said, "Do not look outside." And Marx was at his core a rule follower. He had paid his taxes early every year since he was 23. He wore a seat belt in parking lots. He believed in systems. He believed that when a system designed to protect 300 million people told you to do something, you did it. So he sat on the edge of his bed, phone in hand, watching the internet dissolve into panic. Then his neighbor texted him. Dave Henderson, 2:17 a.m. exactly. Hey, Marx, you should come outside. It's really something. Marx stared at the message for a long time. Dave was not a late night person. Dave was an orthodontist. They went to bed at 9:30. Dave had 2 kids, Tyler, who was 7, and Lily, who had just turned 5. Dave Henderson was the least mysterious person Marx had ever known. Dave Henderson was outside at 2:17 in the morning, texting him to come join. Marx tapped back. Dave, did you not get the alert? You need to get inside. The 3 dots appeared immediately. too immediately. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's beautiful. Bring the kids if you have any. Marx didn't have kids, and Dave knew that. Dave had known that for 9 years. He went to the hallway window, the small one above the stairs, the one he almost never opened because the latch was stiff. He stayed to the side of it, the way he had seen soldiers do in movies, pressing his back to the wall before he let himself look. Dave Henderson was standing in his front yard, just standing there, facing the sky, and he was smiling. Not the smile of someone who just won something, or heard a joke, or saw a friend. It was wider than that. It was the smile of someone who had been given an answer to a question they had carried their whole life. Complete, peaceful, wrong. And it wasn't just Dave. The Pattersons from across the street were out there, both of them standing side by side in their pajamas, faces tilted up, that same enormous smile. Old Mrs. Kellaway from the blue house on the corner, the woman who hadn't left her house in 3 years because of her hip surgery. She was standing barefoot on her lawn like she had forgotten she ever had pain. The Nugent family, the college kid who rented the apartment above the garage 2 doors down. The woman Marx had never met, the one who moved in the last spring. She was there too. All of them, faces up and smiling. And none of them were looking at anything Marx could see. Marx backed away from the window. He sat on the top stair, phone in both hands, and tried to think like a rational person. There were explanations. There were always explanations. Gas leak, some kind of hallucinogen in the air that was making people behave strangely. And the government alert was a cover story, so they could handle it quietly. Or a coordinated prank, some kind of mass social media thing he wasn't aware of, where the whole neighborhood had agreed to freak out the holdouts. Or a religious event he had never heard of. Something cultural. He was still building that list when his phone buzzed again. Not a text this time. Another alert. Same format, same white screen, same thick black letters. If you were receiving this message, you had not been selected. This is not an error. Remain inside. Do not look outside. Those outside cannot return. Do not attempt to retrieve them. You will understand more at dawn. Have not been selected? He read those words 6 times. He read them until they stopped looking like English. Downstairs, someone knocked on his front door. 3 knocks, unhurried, patient, the knock of someone who was absolutely certain the door was going to open. Marx didn't move. The knock came again. Same rhythm, same patience. He could see the shadow through the frosted glass panel beside the door, a dark shape standing perfectly still, waiting with a stillness that no real person should have been able to maintain. Not shifting their weight, not reaching for their phone, not sighing, just standing absolutely motionless. in the way the animals stand motionless before they move very fast. Dave's voice came through the door. "Max, I can hear you breathing." He was not close enough to the door for that to be possible. Max went to the bathroom. It had no windows. He sat on the edge of the tub, pulled his knees in, and looked at the ceiling. He thought about what the alert said. "You are not being selected." He thought about all those people in the street, smiling at something he couldn't see. He thought about what Dave had said. "It's really something." He thought about Mrs. Calloway standing barefoot without pain. And then a thought arrived that he didn't invite. What if being selected was the good thing? What if whatever was out there, whatever was making his neighbors smile like that, stand barefoot in the dark, look at the sky, what if it was actually wonderful? What if the emergency alert wasn't protecting the people inside? What if it was just separating them, keeping the ones who couldn't handle it indoors, while everyone else got something that couldn't be explained in language, because language wasn't built for it? He could feel it now. Not a sound, not anything his ears were picking up. A pressure. Something on the other side of the wall, leaning in the way light leans, the way gravity leans, not threatening, not violent, just patient, just waiting, like something enormous had turned its attention to this little house, to this little bathroom, and was watching through the plaster and the tile and the pipes with something that wasn't malice, but wasn't kindness either, something that had no word in any language he knew. His phone buzzed in his hand again. He looked down. Dave again, one word this time. "Please." Mark stood up. He didn't decide to. That's the part that scared him the most. He had been sitting on the edge of the tub, gripping the cold porcelain, breathing through his nose, refusing to move. And then, with no conscious act of will, he was standing, like his body had weighed the situation while his mind was busy being afraid, and made a separate decision. He walked down the hall. He walked down the stairs. He stood in front of the door with his hands on the deadbolt. And the shadow was still there on the other side of the frosted glass, still utterly motionless, still waiting in that impossible animal stillness. He thought about the alert. Those outside cannot return. He thought about the fact that Dave Henderson was out there with no coat in November at 2 a.m. in the morning and did not appear to be cold. He thought about the smile, that smile. He thought about what it would feel like just for a second to understand something completely, to have every question he had ever asked answered all at once, to feel the thing Mrs. Calloway was feeling, the thing that made her forget a hip replacement she had been suffering through for 4 years. He thought about all the nights he had lain awake, staring at his ceiling, not knowing why, feeling like something enormous was just outside the edge of what he could perceive, and wondering if he could ever be able to stop feeling that way. Maybe this was why he had always felt the way. Maybe he had always known this was coming. His thumb moved the deadbolt, and then his phone lit up one last time. Not an alert this time, not a text. It was a photo from a number he didn't recognize, a 202 area code, Washington, D.C. The photo was of a street, his street, taken from above, way above, like a satellite image, except it was too clear for that, too detailed, taken in darkness without any light source he could account for. He could see every house. He could see every person standing in their yards, all of them facing the same direction, all of them perfectly still. And he could see his house. He could see the light in his bathroom window still on. He could see his front door. He could see the shadow on his porch. And he could see that the shadow had no one cast in it. Marks took his thumb off the deadbolt. He stepped back from the door. One step, then two. Then his back hit the staircase and he sat down on the bottom step, and he held his phone against his chest and stared at the door, and he did not move, and he didn't speak, and he did not open it. The shadow outside didn't leave. It stood there, that impossible, sourceless shape, until 3:40 a.m. in the morning. Marks watched it through the frosted glass, tracking the almost imperceptible shifts in its silhouette, the way you track a storm on a radar, waiting for it to move, to knock again, to do anything. It did nothing. At 3:41, it was gone. At 3:59, the phone stopped buzzing across the neighborhood. Marks heard them, faint through walls and windows, the collective silence of alerts expiring. He heard a sound he hadn't noticed was absent. The birds, a dog somewhere on the next block, the normal, textured noise of a world resuming. At 4 a.m. exactly, Dave Henderson walked back into his house. Marks walked through the side light window. Dave moved normally, walked up his porch steps, opened his door, went inside, turned up the porch light. The Pattersons did the same. Mrs. Calloway, the Nugans, the college kid. One by one, every person who had been standing in the dark with their faces turned up simply walked inside the closed door, like they were coming home from a party, like nothing had happened. Marks went to bed. He didn't sleep. In the morning, he walked over to Dave's house and knocked on the door. Dave answered in his robe, cup of coffee in hand, bright-eyed, rested, the way a person looks when they have had the best sleep of their lives. "Hey, Marks," Dave said. "You look terrible. Are you okay?" Marks studied him, looking for something behind the eyes, some residue of whatever had happened, some trace of where Dave had been for those 2 hours in the dark, some sign that he knew what he had been part of. Dave looked back at him with the pleasant, slightly concerned expression of a man who has no idea what you are talking about. "Dave," Mark said carefully, "do you remember the last night?" Dave tilted his head. "What about it? I slept great, actually. Best sleep I have had in years." He smiled, woke up feeling like a new person. Marx nodded slowly. He said nothing else. He walked back to his house and he locked his door. And he sat at his kitchen table and he looked at his phone. The alert was gone, cleared, no record of it in his notification history. Just a gap between 2:13 a.m. and 4:01 a.m. where nothing appeared to have happened. He went to Twitter, to Reddit, to every news site he could find. And there was nothing. No reports of an emergency alert. No discussions. No screenshots. No, did anyone else get this post? Like the millions of conversations he had watched erupt in real time had been erased along with every screenshot and every reply. Like it hadn't happened at all, except Marx knew it had, because he still had that photo in his phone, the one from the DC number, the aerial shot of his street, all those people turned upward, the shadow on his porch with nothing to cast it. He opened his camera roll. The photo was there, but he was no longer in it. His house was there, his bathroom light still on, his front door, the porch, the shadow. But the aerial photo now showed every house on the block with its lights off, every person already inside, and his house, the only one still lit, looked empty, like no one had ever been home at all. Mark still lives in the same house. He still waves to Dave in the morning. Dave waves back, warm and neighborly, the same as he has always been, except that sometimes when Mark waves, there is a half-second delay, just long enough to notice, just short enough to dismiss. 3 nights ago, his phone went off again, 2:17 a.m. Same tone, same white screen, but the message wasn't the same. It read like, "Presidential alert. Marx, it's your turn."